I'm Graham Millington. I'm a social worker at Thames View Family Health Team.
I'm Crona Arrogid, and I'm a registered social worker at the Thames View Family Health Team also.
And we are going to just talk briefly about grief, loss, and bereavement.
So in regards to loss, that can often occur as a result of changes in people's lives. And there are many different kinds of changes that might bring up loss. So that could be, for example, your children starting school, children graduating and moving away, people having addictions, people retiring from their jobs, divorce, and death of a family member. And so working through loss is referred to as grieving, which is a natural and normal response to going through loss.
I'm so glad you say that, Crona. Because a lot of people, when they come and they're dealing with a loss, and it's a really hard feeling. I mean, we always tend to focus on a death. That's the real loss that we all think we're going to give time to. But like, as Corona said, any kind of change tells us that there's been a loss. And some of the things that people experience when there's been a loss or a death are really uncomfortable, and that's normal. It's a miserable experience. That is how it feels, and some of the things that people talk about when they're dealing with a loss are things like people will say, "I don't feel like myself anymore. The world looks different to me than it did before. I can't focus. I can't concentrate. I can't read books. I start at the top of the page, and by the time I get to the bottom, I don't even know what I've read. I can't sleep, or I'm sleeping too much. I have no appetite, or I'm eating too much. I'm frustrated more than usual, teary." And really the purpose of this video is just to reassure you and to tell you that it is really very normal, and there is no timeline on loss. This sort of feeling this way can go on for longer than we would like it to. And the feeling of not being yourself is a really, or not feeling like yourself is a really understandable feeling, because we understand our world often based on our emotions. And if we're not used to feeling grief or loss, and then suddenly we're feeling it all of the time, well, we're going to feel differently about ourselves, and also the world is going to look differently to us. And when we experience a loss, we're often really very much focused on that person or that change, and focusing on that is going to make it hard for us to focus on other things. And even if we really want to focus on a grocery list, you may find it near impossible because you can't stop thinking about the person that you've lost, or the job that has changed, or the child that's gone away to school, or what have you. So often the most important thing for me as a clinician, I don't know, Corona, is to really help someone who's dealing with loss to accept that this is loss.
Absolutely.
That it is a really hard feeling.
And also, I'm glad you brought it up. I often get asked the question of, I'm supposed to be over this. Everyone's saying to me, you should be over this by now. You need to move on. You need to let it go. And loss is not like that. And absolutely everybody processes at a different rate. People deal with it in very different ways. They cope with it in different ways. If you have a couple that maybe had a loss in regards to a child, they may handle that very differently. One spouse, for example, may want to talk about it all the time, and the other partner may not want to discuss it at all. And they may process it at different rates as well, so different coping mechanisms and different timelines. So really nobody can tell you when you should be over it, and really that term isn't appropriate when we talk about loss. It's not a matter of getting over it, it's a matter of accepting it and becoming okay with it, and functioning and getting and just continuing on with your life in as healthy a way as you can manage. So people don't get over losses, they just learn to live with losses. And I think that's a really different perspective and different way of looking at it than the majority of people will share with you when they talk about loss. Most people look at it in a different way, as in timelines, which I don't think is very helpful when you're going through it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So also a couple of stages of the grieving process that people will typically go through are denial, so not wanting to accept that, anger, bargaining, so trying to make deals, you know, if this situation gets resolved, I'll do anything, that type of thing. Despair, feeling really hopeless, and then acceptance. And they used to think a long time ago that there was a cycle and that people would go from one stage to another, but now it's recognized that actually people move back and forth from stage to stage, and they may get past anger and into despair and feeling hopeless, and then go back and forth through all those different emotions. And I like to describe it as a roller coaster ride where people are up and down and might have a good day one day and think, you know what, I'm really doing good and I'm moving on and I'm feeling better or feeling hopeful, and the next day might be back into despair. Something might have triggered that for them. And so I often will say to clients, you know, I know you want to get off the roller coaster ride, but right now you need to hang on and understand and be good to yourself and kind to yourself, and know that this is where you're at right now, and to take it as it comes and just work with that. And then we look at healthy coping ways to manage that roller coaster ride of all those different emotions.
Okay.